Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Movies and TVs. I'm the boss, TiVo coming at you. And like my last video was talking about the night 50 years ago with 1974, I've decided to take a look at the back to the 80s, back to soap, back to Rocky and Jerry Coke. I'm going back to the 80s and talking about 40 years ago to 1984, as according to this release of this video. I was going to kind of talk to you about the movies of 84 that a lot of people probably grew up on, maybe the generation before me grew up on. One of the first videos that one of the first, and the 80s had a lot of great movies in this decade. You had films such as Empire Strikes Back, which came out in '82, but in '84 we had films like Jay and I have discussed before, which is Better Hang On to Your Teddy. It's Nightmare on Elm Street, and guess who's playing Freddy? Nightmare on Elm Street just celebrated its 40th anniversary this year of 2024, and it's a cult classic, and I feel like it still lives up to after all these years, and it's still scary, especially New Nightmare, which came out in 1994, which was about 10 years of the sequel. That was one of the films that I kind of grew up on, or it was films that Jay and I have discussed. The other films are with the Don't Feed 'Em After Midnight, and a film that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid, thanks to those Furbies, is Gremlins, which is one of the most creepy. I felt like they were more creepier when they were furry than they were when they were green. But I actually, a couple years ago, I mustered up the courage and watched the first Gremlins movie, and which, in some retrospects, people could probably say if Batman Returns is a Christmas movie, the Gremlins might be a Christmas movie as well. Then you had films like The Karate Kid. As you can see, I'm wearing the Cobra Kai shirt. Karate Kid, of course, is a film that was directed by the director of Rocky, and you could see that it had a lot of great scenes, like the crane, sweep the leg, and a lot of the Karate Kid film kind of made generational to Cobra Kai, which we see now with the Netflix series as sort of continuing the story from Karate Kid 1, Karate Kid 2, Karate Kid 3, and of course next Karate Kid, which I don't know if we'll ever see, which came out in 1994, which is or maybe it was 95, which came out 10 years after Karate Kid, the first Karate Kid. But, now with Cobra Kai, I feel like the film is still a cult classic, and I think it's gotten more generational. I think that's what they're calling the new Cobra Kai video, Cobra Kai, or not Cobra Kai, but Karate Kid films, where they're linking the new one that's coming out next year, which is supposed to link the Karate Kid remake with Jackie Chan and Karate Kid with Danielson. But Karate Kid is still a great film. Then you had Davis, Rock Me Amadeus, 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 Amadeus. Amadeus. Amadeus was one of the films that I've seen once. I saw it in a chorus class, And Amadeus to me was, I kind of heard that it was highly inaccurate to Mozart's story, but it had the guy that voiced the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Tom Holtz, I think, and Jeff Murray Abraham, who I only know is because I'm a Star Trek fan, and I know him in Star Trek Insurrection. But Amadeus, it was a pretty good film, and of course you had Falco's Rock Me Amadeus, which was kind of a parodied in The Simpsons with Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, oh ho, Dr. Zaius. Then you had films like Kevin Bacon's classic movie Footloose, kick off your Sunday shoes, please, Louise, don't you get to my knees, for I'm more. Footloose, which was a film, and it had actually John Lithgow as the Reverend who doesn't see eye to eye with Kevin Bacon. But it's one of those films that I feel like it's, a lot of with these 80s films is they kind of become kind of part of the cultural subconscious. Like we see the come on guys, let's dance in Footloose, the Karate Kid sweep the leg, and then you had films such as Who You Gonna Call? I guess what we can talk about is the next one is Purple Rain, which I didn't know thought was a music video, but was more of a music movie as a musical. And I would love to hear your thoughts, so please put a comment below what your thoughts on Purple Rain is. I haven't seen it, but it had Prince, who was, let's get crazy, let's get nuts. Then you had Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which was, I think, I want to say it's the second or third Indiana Jones film. I'm trying to think at the top of my head, but that one had Short Round and okie dokie, Dr. Jonesy, and that's kind of the reason why I have the hat. But I liked Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom because it was very adventurous, and of course Short Round was a great character, and Harrison Ford really brought something to the character. And as you can kind of tell, that it was kind of a nice nice sequel to the original. Then you had films such as 16 Candles, which I feel like was part of the Brat Pack era. You had, that film. You had Anthony Michael Hall who was also in The Breakfast Club, and it had Molly Ringwald, and it was one of those films that really sort of discussed the kind of relationships in high school. And I'm just kind of, most of these movies I'm kind of going as sort of, I've seen these, and kind of barely. And then you had Something Strange in Your Neighborhood, Who You Gonna Call? Ghostbusters, Invisible Man sleeping in your bed, Who You Gonna Call? Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, which is one of the classics films of the 80s, and it kind of works because when you look at Ghostbusters, it's very much they're pretty much basically they are exterminators that exterminate this paranormal, and I feel like but what makes it so interesting is that these guys are doing a 9 to 5 job. It's a lot like Men in Black, where when you look at Men in Black, they look at extraterrestrial. You look at Men in Black and they, look for the scum of the universe, and it's more of a day job. And then looking at it, comparing, if you look at Men in Black, comparing Will Smith's Agent J being the new kid and the one who's trying to kind of find, kind of understand the world of the aliens, and Agent K. Where I'm going with this with Men in Black from Ghostbusters is they're exterminators that basically, catch ghosts for a living, and it becomes kind of a 9 to 5 day job. And what I liked about it is you had Peter Venkman played by Bill Murray, and what I liked, and Harold Ramis as Egon, and Winston as Ernie Hudson as Winston. They all had something to do as characters, and Sigourney Weaver is sort of the babe, but she had a personality and character to her. And Ghostbusters was really cool because we got to see those cool proton packs and those really cool suits. My friend Paul actually was a Ghostbuster at Comic-Con, and that kind of got me into it. But most of you guys maybe grew up with the animated show. I like Ghostbusters, especially Slimer, who really was I was sort of surprised that Slimer was a secondary character in the film. The other films that came out in '84 would probably be Revenge of the Nerds, which, like Porky's and sort of the raunchy comedies, high school comedies of that era. I feel like my thought is that each high school film, looking back at it in a 30-year period, really brings sort of a perspective of comedies, or of kind of how the culture was at that time. Then you had Beverly Hills Cop 2, and Beverly Hills Cop 2 was a pretty good sequel to the original. I feel like it wasn't as great as the first one, but it really brought something to it. Sorry guys, I had my... Other films include... I think the original Beverly Hills Cop came out in 1984. And, it was... I liked it because it was the fish out of water story. And they brought it back for Netflix with Beverly Hills Cop 4, Axel Foley. If you've seen my review of Beverly Hills Cop 1, you will know that I talked about Beverly Hills Cop before, so you could probably check it out later. Other films include the Tom Hanks classic film Splash, which was one of the best, was kind of put Tom Hanks on the map in the 80s. And then you had the double dose of Arnold Schwarzenegger. You had him in the sequel to Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, which was sort of a it was sort of him, being like a warrior. I haven't seen it, but I kind of got the gist of it. I've seen Conan the Barbarian, and I'd like to know what your thoughts on Conan the Destroyer is. And then, of course, you had I'll be back with Terminator, the classic film from the first one, which was 1980s, and it is an amazing film with the special effects that were done on the budget it was. Arnold Schwarzenegger's first kind of action film, and the fact that Arnold is the bad guy in the film, it makes it so great. And Terminator, I feel like, was such a cat and mouse chasing film that it was just so great. And what I also liked about this Terminator is, a lot of people say that, or the thing is O.J. Simpson, who passed away in this year in 2024, was originally James Cameron's first choice for Terminator, or for the Terminator. And I think, can anybody see anybody else other than Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the Terminator? I don't think so. So that's my take on the Terminator, and it really brought sort of a new look on the film series, or from the film, and really brought the film into something. The other films from the 80s is I think from 84 is Beverly Hills. I think Beverly Hills Cop, and this is Spinal Tap, which I've heard people say that I've heard it's a pretty decent film. And then you had the Police Academy, first Police Academy film, which was raunchy for what I've seen. I've seen the first one. They ended up doing about 6 or 7 of them, all the way up to like the 90s. And I do remember the Police Academy movies a little bit better. They had a television series. But what's your thoughts on the Police Academy films? Let me know. And then, of course, the sci-fi film Dune, which came out in 1984. It was also which was also remade, or kind of redone, or I guess a remake, but it was more faithful adaptation, I've heard, of the book Dune, with Jason Momoa in it. And then you had Splash, which I think was I don't think it was Tom Hanks' first film, but it was, I think, the film, because it came out right before Big, because Big came out in 88, Splash came out in 1984, and I feel like my thought is Splash really put Tom Hanks on the map, or pushed him on his way to superstardom. Then you had Children of the Corn, which came out, is a great horror film that's written by Stephen King, and it's great for Halloween. Then you had Missing in Action, and then Muppets Take Manhattan, yay! Muppets Take Manhattan, which was sort of the film. I think the movie came out right after I think the Great Muppet. I think it came out right after the Muppet movie, but before the Muppets Great Caper, and that one was a pretty good film as well. One of my favorite lines, I've only seen it is where Fozzie's pouring sugar in a martini, and he says, "If you, if you put enough sugar in here, it tastes just like ginger ale." So that's one of them that I liked. Then you had Red Dawn, and Red Dawn is probably one of the films that, because I guess at the time the Cold War stuff was still going on with Reagan and stuff. So Red Dawn was sort of a look at the films. But some of these movies I have seen, some of them I know of. But let me know. And then, of course, you had films like Blazing Saddles, which is a great comedy film. Yes, it's a little raunchy, but it's written so well, and it sort of goes with, I feel like, you watch a movie like Blazing, it could be a great double feature with Spaceballs. Blazing Saddles and Spaceballs really work as a great, and maybe Young Frankenstein as a triple feature would be a pretty cool like DVD Blu-ray case. The other one is, but that's the I guess that's kind of my views on films that came out 40 years ago today, or this year of 74. Let me know. I know there's a lot of movies I missed, but let me know what your favorite films from 1974 are. And as always, or 1984. And if there's any other films that you like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe, and see you at the movies. And happy 2025. Peace.